My name is Ross Evelsizer. I'm one of the watershed coordinators with the Upper Wapsi Watershed Management Authority. And we're just going to take a look at a few projects that are part of the Iowa Watershed Approach Project, which is a statewide project that started here in Iowa a few years ago to help build resiliency across 9 watersheds in the state. So the state received about $96 million to work on these projects. And that went for planning, hydrologic modeling, and then implementation. And so the projects that we're going to look at today are going to be some of those projects that were implemented through these dollars. So we're partnering with the Upper Wapsi Watershed Management Authority, and that was a group that formed in 2014 with the goal of restoring flood resilience to the Wapsi watershed as well as improving water quality. And that group is made up of communities and soil and water districts and county boards of supervisors, and there's 32 board members on that group. So we know that there's many ways that we can handle trying to mitigate flooding, and the best projects or the most effective projects seem to be those that we can put in the upper parts of the watershed. And so the project behind me, you can see, is one of many that we're going to put in. I believe there's 28 actually that will be installed as part of this project. And the goal there is to put a network of distributed storage out on the landscape that will help collect heavy rainflow events and keep those out of the streams and rivers during, right after a heavy rainfall. And eventually that water will be allowed to drain out to the river as it would normally, but do so in a way that's not going to cause flash flooding.
My name is Tori Nimrod. I'm the other Upper Wapsi Watershed Project Coordinator. And throughout the watershed, there are, like Ross said, 28 different projects that are going to be implemented. They range from detention ponds, wetlands, oxbow restorations, grass waterways, and wascob structures. And then of those 28, this is one of them. This is a Quasquiton Wetland project. It drains about 10 acres of upland land, and it all collects down at the bottom of this pond, which holds about 6 feet of water when it's full. That really helps flooding benefits because during heavy rainfalls, as it's like 6 to 7 inches or even less, this pond will fill up, and then that holds back those flash flows, so it reduces the impact on the downstream landowners and kind of reduces the flash flooding effect that often Quasquiton has problems with. So a lot of those projects, the other 28, do similar things. They all are focused on reducing flash flows and holding back water up in the watershed, so that way, I guess it just lowers flooding. This project was constructed this summer, so it was actually completed earlier this summer when we had very wet weather, and so when they were trying to plant it, it was very swampy, and so they did plant it to some natives, but right now you see a lot of just volunteer grasses that have come up, but over time those natives will eventually establish and the weeds will go down with some management from the city. They'll continue to mow it in the coming years, and after a couple of years more natives will come up, so it'll look more like that natural wetland look that you're used to seeing. So this project will have a lot of wildlife benefits, so pollinators. Once the plants get established and they start flowering, they will be a benefit to pollinators, which include bees, monarch butterflies, birds, and various other pollinators. It also provides habitat for nesting birds as well with the tall grass, and also a water source for the wildlife as well. There are also water quality benefits to this wetland, as most wetlands. As water flows down, the sediment will collect in the basin, and so that way if it has time to filter down, as well as other nutrients like nitrates and things like that. Once that water is held back, the nutrients will have time to settle and collect in the basin before that water then is released downstream. So landowners can get involved right now. This project, our implementation dollars for the Upper Wapsi IWA project are estimated to be spent, and all these 28 projects have to be implemented by next December 2021. And so, but as a landowner right now, you can always talk to your local SWCD offices and NRCS offices and get involved with implementing any water quality or flood reduction practices. A lot of the time, the water quality practices also do have flood benefits, reduction benefits as well.
I'm Chad Staten. I'm the mayor of Quasquiton. We have a town of 554 here that we settle along the banks of the Wapsipinicon. Over the last many years, we've had many problems with flooding and flash flooding in town. The whole town drains about 30 to 60 acres of ground. This project here, we drain about 10 acres into it. And we decided to do this project on this site to try and mitigate flooding downstream. The city's role in this is we helped establish and work with the county to secure the site, and we are going to be maintaining it here on out as far as mowing it and making sure everything stays native the way we want it to. We installed it this summer and they did all the stuff, and when they went to plant it, it was very wet, and then all of a sudden it hit a drought. So we don't know how much of the seed took on, but we're hoping if we have to reseed it, we will, and it'll be nice and green with a lot of native plants. The local residents are beneficial in this, and we have not heard any complaints since we put this in. It used to wash out the ditches and driveways and downstream, and we had a lot of gully washers, but we've had 2 major storms this summer, and it has held back and released slowly the way it was planned to, and we have not had any of that this year.
So here we have another detention project that was implemented through the Iowa Watershed Approach project. And you know, this project doesn't, you know, is sort of like the last project in Quasky. It doesn't look like it's holding a lot of water, and really that's by design. The less water that's in there means that means there's more room for storage capacity. This particular project drains about 6 acres. And while that doesn't sound like much, it's 96% effective in reducing flow in a 100-year rainfall event. So you can imagine by putting these out all over the landscape, you're basically stopping rainfall from you know, a number of different places that normally would be contributing a lot of water that would then lead to flooding for the Wapsi River. This particular project was done with a private landowner, as are most of the projects that were done through this project. Landowners in the Upper Wapsi were able to get 90% cost share in implementing, so that's a really good deal. And we were able to then, you know, sell those projects to landowners that much better because we had that 90% cost share, and we're able to get really high participation for the project, and we're going to be able to spend all the implementation dollars in this watershed. So final steps to finish up this project will really just be to seed it down this fall, and you know, with a good native mix that will benefit pollinators and wildlife. And otherwise, you know, this is really about the finished project. So once all of these projects are complete and final designs are in, we're going to be able to send that information along with Shive Hattery, who is our engineering firm that's helping us with the project, down to the Iowa Flood Center. And they're going to use that information then to model and tell us exactly how much the agglomerated impact of all of these projects is going to have actually on flooding in the Upper Wapsi. So overall, by doing all these projects in conjunction with other conservation projects, that's, you know, really just the first step for the Upper Wapsi WMA in implementing their plan and moving forward towards a more resilient watershed and improving water quality.